Let's go. Welcome to the next episode of Chaos Code and CryptoShorts. And here I'm super proud and honored to have Christoph Robin Siedentopf, aka Topper. And I guess we'll dig into this, where this nickname is coming from. And probably he has told me earlier, but I'm an old guy, so I tend to forget. But let's talk about him. So he's an accomplished leader. He has been the guy that transitioned from the classical world, so TradFi, into the DeFi space or into the new world. And he just recently set up his own company, CRS Advisory, and I guess he'll dig deeper into that, focusing on raising capital introductions for fund managers, business development, for exchanges and platforms, treasury solutions. I'm super excited to hear about that, how that's going to work, and who you're doing it for, um, as well as recruiting for quant professionals, including portfolio managers and traders, which is also super interesting because I know currently a lot of people
Yep.
are looking for new jobs. So I'm super happy to hear your take on how the market is currently playing out, and what you're doing different than others, and who you want to bash in that field, who's doing like bad practice. And before he set up his own company, he held the various leadership roles with or the last one was with Uphold. Before that, Börse Stuttgart Digital Exchange, where he built the institutional crypto offering, drove adoption among high level clients, whatever that is. Sounds a bit like buzzword to me, but hey, who am I? I mean, I just got sent this thing, so that's the introductions that I'm doing. But he has also been like a more traditional space, like Bank of America, Jeffries, and Deutsche, where he specialized in sales trading, risk management, and client strategy. So, Christopher, aka Topper, what have I missed?
That that sounded pretty good. It all sounded just like a collection of buzzwords that I generated through ChatGPT, and I put my CV in there, which is exactly what happened. And it all sounds extremely glamorous. And yeah, we'll probably find out over the next 45 minutes what's true and what's not true. But yeah, excited to be here. Full transparency. This is my very first podcast. So I'm very honored to be sharing this experience with you, Stefan.
I'm super happy to have you on this podcast, and thanks for accepting like the chaos that you might be up to. But I'm also here. I mean, I'm not throwing you into the deep waters right from the start. So I'm giving you the opportunity to have some sort of light warm up before we like bashing people, companies, before we dig deeper into what's hot and what's not. But maybe tell us a bit more about how was your transition from the old world into the new world, and what really like fascinated you in this transition.
Sure. And look, I guess the beautiful thing about being my own boss now is I don't have a compliance officer who had to pre-check all the questions that you're going to ask me. So yeah, we can bash a lot of people, or maybe we shouldn't. But the journey. Look, it's fair to say I came for the speculation, like many other people too. It was the 2020, 2021 phase. During that time, I was still at Bank of America, but a lot of colleagues, and we were sent home for COVID, but everyone stayed in touch, and we were talking about crypto a lot, probably more about crypto than equities, and it really was fascinating to see assets move so much. So the volatility, the speculation, people making money left, right, and center. So I wanted a piece of it, right? So how do you start? And I think for anyone who's at the beginning of the journey, it's really overwhelming. It's like a jungle. You go into YouTube, you go into X, and you're told to buy this coin, that coin, and it can be really, really confusing. And it was definitely confusing for me as well. But what I then heard, and this is something that people love it or hate it in crypto, but XRP happened to be the first project that I was told about because it will solve cross-border payments.
So you're rich now and close to getting retired. That's why you
Oh,
set up your own company, because it was just like, man, I'm done anyway. So
it,
just for the fun of it.
I wish that was true. My wife also wishes that was true. In fact, the opposite happened. I FOMO'd into my first crypto trade. I was down 50%. Then I used leverage, that blew up. So I mean, my personal trading history is not gonna fill a podcast. But look, long story short, it explained to me a use case that I could get behind, and that was the entry point. And then I started to dig deeper, and then trying to learn about blockchain technology and all the underlying currents. And then it suddenly became like a real passion, a positive obsession, where I was like, this is so fascinating. So after my day in banking ended, I would spend evenings just like on YouTube channels trying to find good sources, and that took a while, trying to find good sources that you can rely on, that actually have proper information. And shout out to the team at Blockworks and Galaxy Brains. Those were really my first two go-to sources where I would get information on a regular basis and start to feel comfortable with the space. And then, as life has it, after 17 years in banking, I was part of a redundancy round, and I was sitting there and I was thinking, do I now apply for another job in banking, or maybe this is the universe telling me, hey, you got to go a different direction. What do you actually care about? What are you interested in? Do something you're passionate about. And that was obviously digital assets. And then there was another weird situation.
Let me quickly jump in with a question, because I mean, it's super interesting to hear, and I mean, I'm also coming from the TradFi space, so to speak, like a former investment banker. But I'm always interested in what make people cross the line into the fancy new world where we have like shitload of volatility. But here comes one point. I mean, I've seen a lot of people transition, as you briefly described it. Okay, we're in it for the money, and I'm not blaming anyone. But currently, we see a lot of traditional people or TradFi people from the old world transitioning. So, do you see crypto basically as a rebel in finance, so really like as a disruptor, or is it just like another version of the old system in disguise?
Yeah, it's look, that's a very good question, and I'm not a libertarian or kind of fuck the system kind of guy. By the way, I don't know what kind of language we use here, but yeah, I guess that can be beeped out. And I don't want to take the system down. I was in it for the money. That's what made me look under the hood. Once I looked under the hood, I realized, hey, this is a real new dawn of a technology that will affect us in so many different ways. And then I was thinking, hey, this is my chance to be part of something that the internet stocks were in the 90s and the early 2000s, which
Gotcha.
I was just a little bit too young. This is my chance to be part of this kind of wave of innovation. And then the more I dove into it, the more interested and hooked I got. And I feel like the narrative, even my own personal narrative, is changing a lot. But
in what way? So what has changed down the road? So
okay, so like I said, first use case was, okay, great. This is going to make cross-border payments much
yeah,
cheaper, much more efficient. I was like, hey, I like that. Then I was like, okay, this is now the NFT period. I was like, okay, this makes total sense. Having my plane ticket, my concert ticket, the deed on my house, having all that on chain. Wow, this is a really, really good use case. Then the whole inflation and the money printing aspect, that from a macro and political point of view, that made total sense to me. And so I'm really, and I still am, behind that argument for Bitcoin on its own. And then now the emergence of or the joining of AI and blockchain. And I feel like there's going to be a new narrative by the end of this year, and again, personal narrative, and the space just keeps reinventing itself. But if I look back, just a simple use case like stablecoins last year is just a no-brainer. And so, having worked in finance and having seen the inefficiencies firsthand, I mean, that system is long due for an overhaul. So this is happening right now. But then, I'm not the most creative and the most innovative person, so I'm kind of excited to see where this leads us. But ultimately, I'm just super, super excited and grateful to be part of this. And to your point, I came in a bull market, right? And it's super easy to jump ship in a bull market. And then a lot of my TradFi colleagues that make the jump across with me, they then jump back into TradFi. But I stayed through one winter, and I feel like, not that it's like kind of a badge of honor, but ultimately I'm glad I did it because it gave me time to also build things and build connections. And now in this current bull run, I'm just glad that I stuck around because I think it's a super exciting space to be in.
Which brings me to another point, as you addressed, like, okay, you have been through the NFT cycle, and you have been discussing like plane ticket. So technically, we're talking about real life use cases here.
Yeah,
But here comes my question. I mean, and I've been there as well, trading these instruments rather than seeing like real world adoption. I've seen so many use cases on paper, while in the real world, I would say they're pretty rare.
yeah,
So for me, it's like the question: is it more innovation or hype? And as you described it, like, okay, we have been through multiple narratives. We had like the NFT cycle. We had the. I mean, currently, I don't know if we're at the end or in the middle, like the meme coin hype cycle. And you mentioned, hey, we have the AI narrative in combination. So currently, I see everyone that wants to raise funds, even though if they have been a plain Web3 project for 10 years, they're now Web3 plus AI,
yeah.
just for the sake of raising.
Yeah.
So, but what is your take on this? Is it just like hype to hype, or are we really seeing like innovation driven forward?
Um, Look, I think what the hype probably opens the floodgates for capital. There is there's such a thing as FOMO amongst VCs, which I didn't know existed in TradFi when I was working in TradFi, but it definitely applies to the space here. And you have to experiment, you have to fail, you have to try things out, and then the use cases. I mean, the best use cases in crypto are going to be the ones where we use an everyday product, maybe something that we're already using now, but that then runs on crypto rails, and we just don't know it, right? I mean, there's uh, stable coins I've mentioned, tokenization, and obviously something that I actually heard when I went to my first crypto conference 4 years ago. Everybody was talking about tokenization, and I feel like they're still talking about it now in the same kind of. It hasn't really moved on as much,
Yeah.
except maybe stable coins. But yeah, I mean, the possibilities in that space I feel are endless. But these are things that I can think of. Just imagine the smart, really creative people that think outside the box much more than I do, what they can come up with. And I feel like the concept of AI agents trading with each other, on chain, that's something that it's really hard to grasp. But I'm super excited to see where that will lead. Like, yeah. So
I'm interested to see where the alpha license is. If
yeah,
it's AI trading versus AI, and from an old school perspective, I mean, we have seen like, I mean, not AI technically speaking, but we have seen like a couple of various trading strategies that, yeah, become an obsolete at some point in time.
yeah, yeah, we have. I mean, just coming back to this AI agent trading against each other. I don't think it's going to be bots that run better strategies than other bots.
Yeah.
It's more sending value on a smart contract to smart contract transaction, AI initiated, that kind of stuff. And what you can build on top of that, I don't even know. But it feels like making existing processes more efficient and automating everything is going to be huge. Um, so yeah.
Is there any specific inefficiencies you currently see in the market, or anything that comes to your mind, or is it more
Well,
like generally speaking, without in-depth tech knowledge? I mean, we're both not like the
no,
coding guys.
no,
I guess. I mean, I at least I can speak for me.
yeah, no, spot on. Yeah, I can't write code. I can't read code. That's for the younger generation. Well, look, I was at a tokenization conference yesterday here in London. Um, Shout out to XDC. They focus on shipping finance, trade finance. The amount of paper trail that's like in that system when if you ever see like how much of our goods, like global trade, relies on, you know, big shipping, big freight tankers, and that whole process relies on so much paperwork and so many intermediaries. If that were all on chain, it would just remove so many roadblocks and would just make the whole process so much more efficient. And efficiency means cost savings. So yeah, um,
Can I disagree with you on that point?
yeah,
I mean, while I disagree on one point, I disagree with you on some other points. I absolutely agree with you on the inefficiencies and the paper trails that are still there, especially in shipping. And one of the main use cases a few years back was supply chain management.
hmm,
So, which I think is great if every party agrees to it. But for me, I mean, coming from the commodities world, there are
yeah,
certain parties that don't want to be fully transparent. So, and that's like I mean, it's a beauty about a blockchain technology, but it's also like, well, does everyone within the chain really want this full transparency?
yeah.
That's what I've seen, where we see like, okay, there might be, yeah, some solutions that we haven't figured out yet.
I think you make a very good point. And the other point that I like to add to that is um, none of the systems that the blockchain could improve are actually broken, right? They're still working. So
Yeah.
they might be working very inefficiently and costly, but they're working. So it would have to take all stakeholders, all parties involved to agree to put everything onto a chain so that everybody can reap the benefits. But to your point, you know, some people don't want to, and it will take a lot of time. But then again, you know, this I hear that a lot. I hear a lot. Hey, we're in it early. When I first heard it, I was like, oh my god, I'm in it so late. Why did I stay in banking so long? And people telling me you're in it early, and I feel it again now with everything that's happening in the US, and I'm sure we're going to talk about that a bit as well later on. Um, you know, these things take time, but there's one saying, and I don't know, you can edit it out or not if you want, but you know, we overestimate what we can achieve in 1 year and we underestimate what we can achieve in 10 years. And I think it's so applicable for this space.
I mean, even though it's said so many times,
I
it
know,
still
right?
holds value. So it's still
What do
true
you
for
mean?
me.
That's my original. I came up with that.
Okay, sorry. Here's where you heard it first. You heard it first
Right.
from Topper. Topper is a man that said it first. So kudos to him. He's the genius.
Absolutely.
And excuse me for blaming him. So or taking away anything. So no, but cool. But you addressed one point, and I don't want to dig too much into US. I want to more address like legacy systems, and we can address US as they have been pretty late. But saying like, okay, with legacy institutions currently scrambling to decode blockchain, are they just too slow on the uptake, or are they quietly playing the long game? I have an opinion on that, but I want to hear yours.
Okay, so when you say legacy firms, are you talking about the legacy places you and I worked at, the big banks? And,
Exactly,
yeah.
exactly. I'm talking about the Bank of Americas, like the Black Rocks and
Sure. Look,
Fidelity's. Yeah.
yeah, and I know exactly where you're going with this. There's there's two things here. First of all, having worked in one of these big organization, I know how long it takes to you know to move things and to innovate and just all that bureaucracy and all those hoops you have to jump through when you have an idea and you want to change something. That does take forever. But I think you make a very good point that there's also been a strategy around the fact that hey, let's not join this party and hype and throw all the resources at it that we can. Let's see first of all how we want to position ourselves so that we can profit the most from this innovation. We're not going to be left behind, so we're going to be starting developing things behind closed curtains. We're not going to tell anyone what we're doing, or you know, at least we're not going to announce it. And then once the jurisdiction that we're in, and you know, you mentioned BlackRock and all the others, once they're ready for us to go, you know, full throttle, then we're gonna actively participate. And I think that's exactly what happened, right? Whether it was the
Yeah.
ETFs in the US and all that stalling beforehand. So yeah,
It's
I mean,
easy
but
money, no?
it's super easy money, and that's also why people like Larry Fink and Jamie Dimon, they flipped their views on Bitcoin and crypto quite dramatically over the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. I haven't. I'm making an assumption now. And it's like, I mean, you mentioned Diamond, yeah, Diamond and Fink. Sounds like a bit like Diamond. Okay, so but here I have an assumption. And it's like, as we have heard, like from inside this organizations, they already worked on it while the board was actually denying it. And here comes my perspective as an old school trader. Um, Trading departments, they have been trading digital assets in and out. And I think especially like the larger tokens. So I'm talking about Bitcoin,
Hmm.
because I mean what we see there is like high inefficiencies of markets, but still we have enough liquidity. So, but it's just I'm just guessing here. But my assumption would be like they have been doing it for the last years, and now building up in silent, building up their positions, getting a look and feel of how it works before they really like coming up with, okay, let's do that shit.
Yeah. Look, I don't know how easy it is to do something behind closed doors in these banks, but then again, maybe you're right. Maybe there's a basement that no one knows about, and then they're trading. They've got trading teams, but yeah, I'm sure there was a strategy behind it, and they're the ones who make the big decisions in Washington and on Wall Street, and of course they've been watching the space for a long time, and especially the inefficiencies, right? If you look at companies like Citadel and the others, and Citadel
Yeah,
now finally coming back in. I mean, this is what they
big.
dream. This is what they dream of, right? I mean, this
Yeah.
is what equity markets used to be like 10, 20 years ago. So yeah, it's yeah,
As we're talking about Citadel, I mean, they're one of the biggest market makers on this fucking planet. And we have seen some of the crypto market makers that grew really big, that have been usually it was people, or it is still people, that worked for one of the bigger market makers, and then they set up their own shop for crypto. So how do you see it from a perspective of competition? I
yeah.
mean, Citadel obviously doing it for a gazillion of years. They have the experience, while the other ones have the specific expertise in the digital world.
Yeah, I think. Look, I think market makers and exchanges, you're gonna have to see a lot of consolidation. I feel that market makers that really know the crypto space inside out, joining forces with some of the larger houses, or just teams getting straight up being bought out by the likes of Citadel. I think that would make a lot of sense strategically. Same goes for exchanges, and same goes for custodians, right? I mean,
Yeah,
um, there's BNY Mellon and State Street. They've got the reach and the history, but the likes of Copper and let me make sure that I mention everyone, and Fireblocks. I'm not leaving anyone out here. They have the expertise and the technology that you need in
yeah.
crypto, right? You need both. So I definitely see there's a need for some consolidation in that space.
Who do you think will survive? And I'm not looking for specific names right now. And you can name them all again if you want.
Yeah,
Um, it's more like what gives them the highest probability of survival, in terms of survival of the fittest, what needs to be done, and why. I mean, yes, buying out teams, consolidation, I strongly believe in that. And my take on that is, especially if we're looking at staking and custody, it will become plain commodity. And
yeah.
that means technically, okay, we see shrinking margins, so there is I mean, there's a need for consolidation. But yeah. Who and how will they survive?
Look, I think and the margin pressure is a really important point, right? I mean, custody. If we go back to the Mount Gox days, custody's come a long way, and custody was essential, and custody maybe was a premium product a few years ago, and now it's more like a necessity, and the competition caused this margin compression. Who's going to survive? I mean, let me throw in a few more names: Bitco and Kamenu, and I don't know who else I should have on my list. Anyone that has a moat, and maybe anyone that has a partnership, what they've all done now is they've all kind of reinvented their products by providing off exchange settlement. I think that's kind of key. And again, these things all exist in the traditional world already. But we always say the institutions are coming. The institutions are coming. Institutions wouldn't touch crypto unless you could actually have off-exchange settlement, right?
Yeah.
And keep your assets safe. So this is all happening now. They're kind of inventing themselves there. I guess whoever has obviously a certain threshold of clients, I think a partnership is really important. So yeah, it's really hard to see who will survive, because I would imagine if banks and existing custodians want this business, they could just take it if they want it.
Yeah. Which is, I mean, you addressed an interesting point, and I just thought about like what happened with Bybit recently,
Yeah.
and actually, but I want to address the custodian part, because I think exactly the same day or the day after, Fireblocks. I'm dropping another name so that we covered all the names in the end.
Yeah.
Fireblocks, they came up with an article saying, okay, it wouldn't happen if you would have used our off exchange technology with all the benefits. What do you think about that?
Uh, okay. There's two thoughts here. I don't like parading around if shit hits the fan
Yeah,
and point fingers. That's just not my style. Um, but at the end, I can they have a point. But yeah, I just don't like that kind of approach. And look, I mean, Lazarus, they obviously know what they're doing, and hacking is. I've read some interesting statistics about this. This is obviously by far the biggest hack and theft of money that's ever happened. I mean, it dwarfs everything else out there. What I love is how probably 2 or 3 years ago there would have been a lot of everybody distanced themselves from Bybit and like, oh, um, uh, one competitor less and
yeah, yeah.
point fingers, whereas the opposite happened. I think there was a lot of desks offering lending and trying to help out and fill that hole. So the community kind of grew together, which I think is great. But at the same time, and you probably see it in the price action these last couple of days, it's another really shitty headline for crypto, which we could have done without.
Fully agree.
Yeah.
Fully agree. I mean, it made it into the like the standard newspapers in Germany and in Switzerland at least, and it was just like, okay,
Yeah.
crypto 1.5 billion hack, and I mean, obviously positive news doesn't sell. So it wasn't about like, hey, what happened behind the scenes? How did they manage? How was Banju, so the CEO of Bybit, pretty soon after it happened? He basically was, or Bybit, I had a feeling was super transparent on that.
Yeah.
So and everything that happened, I mean, I've seen so many people supporting it. BitGet was mentioned in a few sources, but it's also like individual people, and individual people I'm talking about some of the whales that helped out. A lot
Yeah.
of loans were given from multiple parties. So I think in general, that was a good example. And also what I'm trying to explain people, and like to hear your take on that. If you want to steal funds, probably the worst way is doing it on chain,
Yeah.
because I mean it's a most transparent way. And right after this happened, it was like all the companies, I don't know, Chainalysis, Arkham, Elliptic, they all were already like tracking all the wallets. And that's also like what you said basically, with exchanges basically, um, having this united approach, like standing together. Even they blacklisted the wallets. I mean, the known wallets. So put it like that. So, and I think that shows actually a lot of things that are happening within the crypto industry. But yeah,
Yeah.
my
No,
yeah, great approI.
I agree. but yeah, the problem is the negative headline already out there. Like you said, it
Yeah.
was probably in Blick and Bild and all these newspapers, but that's the problem, right? Then millions of people read it, and that's all they remember, and they probably just started to not forget, but like Sam Bankman-Fried
Yeah.
seems a while ago, and we had really positive news flow, and now this, and maybe throw in there the Argentinian president's meme coin disaster, and maybe even Trump, but we can talk about that. The point I'm making is negative headlines, like you said, negative news sells, positive doesn't, and this is what stays in people's minds. And then we're kind of taking a step or a few steps back, and we have to keep pushing around the education and the transparency and the potential uh, and all of that. But yeah, to your point, also, yeah, I was following that how the funds were then split across 200 different or 2,000 different addresses, but it feels like some of them already now are in mixes and maybe
Yeah.
they're laundered. So I don't know. Like it feels like that money is gone, and that's over that's over a billion in the hands of North Korean hackers. So it's not great.
While I have to admit, there are also rumors out there that it wasn't the Lazarus Group, that they were just put in front to cover up the real operation. But that's just like a lot of guesswork here.
Yeah,
I have to
yeah,
say. So I don't have a proof on that. But let's do a quick round to loosen up a bit. A quick round
right.
of rapid chaos. So quick answers, short answers, one word, yes, no. I guess you get what I'm
Good.
up to.
I'm,
So, crypto, wild innovation or just pure chaos?
innovation.
In one word, why are traditional banks sweating over crypto?
Fear of the unknown.
There was more than one word, but I'm giving you that. True or false? Blockchain is the ultimate game changer.
True.
What is the biggest institutional oops moment you have seen in crypto?
Not adopting it sooner.
When it comes down to it, does crypto truly deliver or is it all hype?
Ooh, I want to go 50-50. Probably more hype right now.
Okay. Are you more trusting of cold, hard algorithms or well-timed gut instinct in volatile markets?
Uh, Systematic all the way. I'm an emotional trader, which means I'm not a very good trader. So yeah, I wish I was systematic and emotionless.
Okay. Is crypto the disruptor we have seen promised or just another bubble about to burst?
It is a disruptor and a
If you
facilitator.
could if you could instantly ban one outdated financial practice, what would it be?
Rehypothecation.
How do you react when regulators try to put the brakes on crypto? Fight back or adapt?
Fight back.
Given a 24-hour window, would you bet on legacy finance or go all in on digital assets?
All in digital assets.
Which brings me back like, okay, is it emotional or like
What?
systematic? So
Yeah.
that sounds more like an emotional one.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, super interesting to hear your answers. And you addressed earlier also like Trump, and I want to pick this one up,
Hmm.
which also has like a bit of goes into the first question that I asked you: wild innovation or just pure chaos? And I mean, we had like multiple tokens. What was it? Car, Millet, Trump, Melania, and I was actually betting like the next one after Trump and Melania. So Melania would be Eric as a next token,
Yeah.
but I haven't seen it so far. So
I think there was talk
what is
about
what is your take,
Baron, right? Wasn't there Baron?
Baron?
Yeah.
Was there? I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know. I skipped after Melania sucked the liquidity out of Trump.
Yeah.
So but what is your take? Did this any good? And you touched it earlier when you said like, okay, um, everything that raises interest for new technology technically is a good thing.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head there. So, look, I think it was a gateway. I don't know the statistics, and I don't know what to believe how many new users got adopted into or had their first interaction with crypto and with DeFi because of the Trump token. It definitely created awareness. I think it also showed just the pure computational power of Solana and the transaction and um, even the chain I think stopped for quite some time in between. It's still, I mean, it's incredible the amount of value, and that's ultimately what crypto is, right? The ability to send value from A to B. It was hugely impressive. And look, there's this argument which I kind of share around free speech, that people should be able to do launch their own launch their own tokens if they wanted to. I mean, we have to caveat this because people shouldn't blindly jump into this. But then again, people can do with their money whatever they want. So but there needs to be the right, at least disclaimers or protection in place if possible. However, should the president use his momentum in such a way, or just imagine this would happen in TradFi, someone like, is it insider trading? I mean, I'm sure there were people that knew this before and that made profitable um, returns right from the get-go. I don't think anything was wrong with it. Was it morally wrong? Most likely. Is it legally wrong? I don't think so, because if we say that he can't do it, then that kind of forfeits the whole argument around what crypto actually is. So yeah, it was. I could have done without the headline, but I don't think it was all negative.
Gotcha.
It's a
And
bit.
you don't have any issues with like old practices like I'm not saying I would say I could bring up two topics. One is market manipulation and the other one is front running.
Yeah,
And I'm not saying that's an exclusive thing that we have seen with I think it was a Trump token or with Melania or with any of the other ones. But if we just going back, I think it was 2 years ago, like where Elon started basically promoting his Doge, and not his, but the Doge coin as a mean of payment for Tesla, pushing it, like communicating it, like Doge here, Doge there, and now we have Doge department.
yeah.
So
Look, I think the problem there is if the Tesla balance sheet or even Elon himself, fills up his bags, to use crypto terminology, with Doge, and then puts out a tweet, which he knows gets read by hundreds of millions of people, and obviously has then a reaction on the price. I think that is front running, right? I mean, there's no other way. There's no other way to put it. But on the other hand, we live in a day and age of social media where, uh, yeah, I mean, people have this certain reach, and so um, it's very hard to. It's a bit of a gray zone for me. But yeah, look, I think one more feeling I had around the Trump and Melania token was complete FOMO. I mean, I was like, why am I not involved in this? And it brought me back to my early crypto days. I was like, this was such an obvious trade. Why didn't A, I think of it, or B,
yeah,
get at least involved?
true that. But I can tell you, like I was talking about at the World Economic Forum,
Yeah,
and it was a room with I don't know, probably 50, 60 people, and there was funny enough is like was one of the panelists. Um, she invested in Trump.
yeah,
I don't know how much she made out of it, but it was really like the one person in the room. Well, I think there was another one, but it's just like in terms of, hey, just to give you a good feeling, you weren't the only ones that missed out an opportunity, and there might be other opportunities down the road.
yeah.
But let's get a bit back to what you actually do, and in terms of your service offerings.
Great.
When you say capital introductions for fund and managers, tell me a bit
Yeah,
how
sure.
that works
Yeah,
and
yeah.
why should I pick Topper over anyone else?
Yeah. So first of all, let me just take a step back. So I've shared how in 20 years of being a sales guy, I got made redundant twice. And maybe this is for anyone out there listening who's just going through it. It's a shitty process. Your ego gets knocked, and you're kind of like, yeah. And then people say, "Oh, one door closes and three opens." It takes a few days or weeks to realize that might be the case. But like I said, in the first time it happened to me, it brought me into digital assets, and now the second time it happened to me, it kind of pushed me, or it allowed me to set up my own shop. So, in hindsight, hopefully two good events. What I did at Uphold was Uphold had really good fundamental research written by shout out Dr. Martin Hisberg, who looks at blockchain protocols exactly for what we discussed earlier, the use case, and therefore are they first of all, are they here to be around for the next 3-5 years? Do they make a certain industry more efficient? Do they disrupt stuff? So he wrote really, really good research, and he wanted me to monetize that. So I built together with him and the team, the institutional OTC desk. And there I was covering hedge funds and asset managers in the crypto space, which is slightly different to TradFi because, you have high net worth individuals. You've got protocols that sit on foundations that sit on large treasuries, which suddenly in scope as a client. And then you got VCs who also have TGEs or token generation events who then suddenly need an OTC desk to trade. So big array of clients. And I was able to build up my network, and I touched on that earlier as well. It was during crypto winter, and big shout out to Uphold for giving me the time and also the resources to build this business. But when again restructuring took place, and I was like, what do I do now? I decided to set up my own consultancy because I felt like I want to learn more about hedge funds and how they raise capital. I've never done that. I've always been a sales guy. I've always been a service provider. But at the same time, I can also do business development for platforms and exchanges, just like I did at Uphold. And I can actually wear these hats simultaneously. And another argument for this was whenever I went to a crypto conference, I felt like only 10 or 20% of the conversations I was having were relevant to the Uphold product. But now that I wear many different hats, I feel like I can use every conversation or most of the conversations, and it really is about connecting people. I think that's kind of the philosophy of this business, the CRS advisory mantra. And quick anecdote. So CRS is my initials, Christopher Robin Siedentop, but in another moment of genius, I thought this could also mean CRS could also mean crypto relationship services or crypto revenue strategies. I mean, check that out, right? That's
what else could it mean? If someone is going that far and is still listening, um, please write down somewhere in the comments. Write down what else CRS can stand for, and then we pick a lucky winner, and the lucky winner gets one of this fancy first edition CRS hats.
First edition hats. Yeah, that's one of the first things I did when I launched the business. I went to design a logo with a very good friend of mine, and then made 3 hats and a beanie. So that's the first paycheck. But look, really the business focuses on now 4 pillars, and I say now because the last one that you also read out is only a recent addition. First one is business development for platforms and exchanges. I think it's pretty much self-explanatory. The second is a capital introduction to fund managers and hedge funds and asset managers. The third one is optimizing treasury management for protocols, and we can talk about that in a minute. And then the fourth one is recruitment of quant talent within the space. And just to name a few, but like there's a number of hedge funds out there that are looking.
Do some name dropping.
Yeah, do some name dropping. So Nickel, Fazanara, these guys are out there looking for.
Shout out to the Nickel guys. Hey, Anatoly is always a player. I mean, I've been with him on a panel, so hey, Chris, you. I mean, it's always smart.
There you go. Looking for talented crypto traders. So just again, coming back to trying to connect the dots. And these 4 verticals, they work really well alongside each other, and there's a lot of overlap. And so yeah, I'm extremely proud to currently be representing three companies, which I want to shout out here. First one was Enclave Markets, fully encrypted exchange offering spot and crossing and perps. Then Assetera, a tokenization platform for primary issuance as well as secondary market liquidity. And then 3IQ, the large Canadian institutional asset manager, one of the first
Good friends,
Bitcoin
yeah.
ETFs. Yeah, 4 billion
Pascal
AUM.
and Co. Shout out to you guys.
Yeah. So those three are currently clients of CRS, which I'm extremely proud of.
Sounds awesome. How many more clients can you take on until you're like
That's a,
swamped with work and you say no, fuck, no more?
so there's a couple of things there. First of all, I feel really lucky, and knock on wood, long may this last. That actually working in digital assets, crypto, whatever you want to define it as, 80% of the time it doesn't feel like work. Like I love what I do. To the degree that I've got three young kids at home. Saturday is family day, but I work Sunday afternoons. I work every evening, and it's a real passion of mine. I'm super busy, especially the kids are 6, 3, and 6 months, so busy at home. And between crypto and kids, there's no room for anything else. All the hobbies I used to have, they're gone.
It's
But
crypto.
crypto is a hobby. Yeah, crypto and kids.
No, for your kids, I guess your kids are all like big investors in crypto, and you as a caring father, I mean, build
Right.
up like a shitload of crypto in terms of portfolio. Like,
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully soon. But yeah, that's the plan.
I
So
have a question. And that's a serious question. Um, how are you getting paid? And how are you getting paid? I hopefully getting paid like shitload of money. But I mean, as you as a crypto advocate, can I pay you in now? Bring up Tezos or for that matter, any other cryptocurrency, or is it only you're taking hard cash?
no, I'm still I'm still a cash guy, but I don't think that's because of me. I think that's because of just the way things are with HR and stuff at these firms. But I haven't actually discussed that yet. But to be honest, yeah, I'll. Right now, it's about managing cash flows, but maybe a few months down the line, I'll be accepting crypto and just putting it into a wallet that I can't access. That'd be the best way for me.
I mean, I would say the same here. So I guess like if you come from a TradFi world, if you worked in trading, you have some sort of addiction and some sort of emotional attachment. If you're not fully systematic and come from that space, but yeah, I see this with a lot of my friends
Yeah.
from the old world. But I mean, you just talked about the kids, and also like to bring in this bit like a personal touch and not go into detail about your kids, what they're doing. Again, like super early crypto investors and pretty soon successors of their father. But just assume you would build up a crypto portfolio for a wide ride. So for the next whatever, let's say till your kids are getting 18. So for the next 10 to 20 years,
Ooh.
what is it? What is a secret ingredient you'd never leave out? So I'm not asking for like, okay, what is the exact distribution of the portfolio, but
Yeah.
what is it like? How would you structure it?
So that's a great question, and something that I play with in my head a lot. Sadly, only in my head. But so the I would like each kid to have their own Bitcoin, right? One Bitcoin each. I think can't go wrong. If Michael Saylor's to believe, that should be worth 13 million by the time they're 18. So that's okay. That
Damn.
works for me. The other is then certain narratives, and I think we talked about tokenization, so I definitely throw some Ondo in there. I don't know if I'm supposed to mention individual tokens, but yeah.
Big disclaimer here. Big disclaimer. No financial advice. No
Oh,
nothing. So don't trust us. Question everything. we are saying now, and that we said before, form your own opinion,
That's right. Do your own
invest in
research.
crypto, be a happy person.
um, and by the way, this is just a hypothetical portfolio in my head, right? So definitely no financial advice. Yeah, couple of layer ones. I like the AI narrative. Tau as a token that, especially in my uphold days, we were looking at very, very closely.
Why is that?
Uh, because it sits kind of in the intersection of AI and crypto, and it's got this subnet structure, which it's distributed AI. So yeah, I like the narrative around that.
Okay, gotcha.
The Look, I think some of the you got to have some soul and ETH in there. Which one I prefer out of the two, I don't really have an opinion right now. But they all have their use case and narrative. So
That would have been probably a question, because I mean the strong narrative with Solana obviously was, I mean, the uptake in volume, like a transaction and this kind of stuff, which were mostly driven by meme coins. And we had it earlier in this conversation where you said, okay, we have seen a couple of hype cycles. We might be in the next hype cycle, going into whatever next one. So I don't know. I'm a bit undecided on Solana, and actually, I'm also a bit undecided on Ethereum. But that's only for the sake of, hey, I haven't seen a lot of things in terms of development and actually the problems they wanted to solve, and with the volume moving out of Ethereum into Solana. So I guess basically what I'm hearing from you, it's basically you're trying to hedge two positions.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, I am, because of the amount of applications that are being built on Ethereum.
yeah.
And I feel like even though meme coins have died down a bit, they're going to come back. And Solana is just so extremely well funded, and even though the technology is probably not as good as Ethereum, but I'm not the tech guy. Again, it has its place, or it's already found its place within the digital asset ecosystem. And then, I don't want to underestimate, and this is not a very pure crypto way of thinking, but you've got ETPs on these, or you've got Solana coming very soon, and that just means it's, the then accessible capital is going to flow into that. Is going to have a huge impact on the or some impact on the price action. Um, but yeah, I mean, Sui is another one. I think also Avalanche, how that ecosystem is evolving, I think is super, super interesting. And then you definitely got to have DeFi. I'm actually super bullish on DeFi because I feel there's going to be some very positive regulation for DeFi coming out of the US, or at least some regulation, which already would be positive. So yeah, I love Aave and I love Uniswap.
Yeah. So you're the pro regulation guy?
I am a No, I wouldn't say I'm pro regulation. Hey, this is another thing I heard, and again, you can credit me for coming up with this. Uh,
Here you heard it first again.
Heard it first. Press the record button. America innovates, China duplicates, and Europe regulates. And
Yeah.
so, no, I'm not very pro regulation, but some guardrails are needed for the space to grow. And coming back to what is really my mission, my personal mission in this space, it probably is to drive institutional adoption, because that's what's closest to my heart, and it's kind of what I know, whether that it's through hedge funds or ETFs or whatever. And so, if you want those players and that capital to flow into the space, you need some guardrails. So yeah, we need some regulation. And DeFi, I just want DeFi to kind of step out of the dark, because I love what DeFi is, and the possibilities within it. But you need some kind of clarity. So for people who aren't looking at this space 24/7, can actually get comfortable with DeFi.
Okay. Makes sense. I mean, there's nothing that I can actually add, or nothing that I really disagree with. And as we are coming closer to the end, I'm giving you the opportunity to finally. Oh no! I mean, we have one open question. Damn, fuck that. Tell us about Topper.
Oh, um, so there's two versions. You know, people as old as you and me,
Tell us the dirty one.
they'll remember a great movie with Charlie Sheen called Hot Shots, and he was called Topper Harley. Sadly,
Topper Hardy.
that's not the story. That's the kind of the story I wanted it to be when I was younger. It actually comes from when I was a young kid, and I was playing golf. I was trying to play golf with some of my friends, and you know, if you don't hit the golf ball very well,
What's your handicap?
well,
Quick one.
it then became seven. So you know, I played pretty well towards the end of my youth. But if you don't hit the ball well, you top it. And so they were just calling me Chris Topper all the time, and then just called me Topper, and I hated it. It was proper bullying for like 2 years, and then I became quite good, you know, single figure handicap, and then I actually quite liked the name, and then it stuck with me. And then in my finance career, everybody in Frankfurt and London who I worked with, they only ever knew me as Topper. So yeah, it stuck with me.
Okay, so it's not. I was really like, because I'm also that old, so I do know Topper Harley,
Yeah.
from Hot Shots. Probably it's not even a funny movie if you rewatch it now, but back then, um,
I'm just laughing about it because yeah, it's so you got to watch it. Put it in the notes of the podcast for the younger generation to watch it.
I will. But the question is, which one is it? Are we talking about Hot Shots 1 or Hot Shots 2?
It's not called Hot Shots 2, it's Hot Shots Part 2, which is just another. I mean, these jokes in there, they're just so flat. It's incredible.
Yeah, they won't work
No,
this times anyway.
yeah.
Or yeah, will be tricky ones. Will be tricky ones. Um, So, as usually, I'm giving my guests the final word. So, you can do whatever you want with this time. You can pitch your company. You can tell some wise words, or you can bring up another one. You heard it here first.
Yeah,
Whatever comes to your mind. Don't quote Rocky, Muhammad Ali, or Mike Tyson.
yeah.
So then it's probably too obvious, and not the Dalai Lama.
I should have prepared some quotes from Hot Shots now. That would have been a look. I've pitched my company. All I can say is maybe it's a shout out to the whole community. It's you know, from day one, the level of collaboration in this space is what really makes it so much fun to be involved in this. And it's like when I came in as a newbie 4 years ago, you know, I knew nothing about the technology, but not once did anyone say, "Oh, you know, you dumb idiot," which I was called in banking quite a lot. But you know, it feels like people are willing to open doors. I experienced that again, you know, when I was changing my career, and that's something that I know is probably only part of growing something together. You know, no one wants to divide the pie up just yet because we all want to grow together. But I'm also hopeful that maybe it's something that's just very much related to this space, and long may it last. So you know, if you're watching this and you're new and you haven't joined the digital asset circus, it's really fun.
I like the circus one. So, hi, like you get a bloody nose down the road. Don't give up.
Yeah,
Okay, buddy. Was a pleasure having you on the show.
awesome.
And let's see who we welcome on the next episode. We're
Thanks.
out of here.
Thanks for having me, Stefan. It was great to do it with you first time round.
Won't be the last time.
Take care, my friend. See you soon.
Cheers, buddy.